G'day guys, it's Frosty here from Melbourne, Australia, and you're listening to Call Hits, the Storm Riders Airsoft podcast.
Thanks for joining us, everyone. And thank you, Ben, Frosty, for being here today. Today, Frosty and I are going to spend a bit of time talking about his latest trip to the US to play AMS Ironhorse 6 with the Storm Riders Foreign Legion. We've been talking about this event a lot in the past several episodes, but it was a big deal. And what I think is sort of the most interesting is hearing everyone's perspective, right? We had a large group of people. And so how everyone played the game and what they took from the event has varied. Like, it's been different experiences, different stories, and so on. So hopefully you'll forgive us with this repeated topic. But I know, speaking for myself, I know that these conversations certainly haven't been boring, and it's been more than just reminiscing. So Frosty, thanks for being with us here today. And also, just thank you for joining us at Ironhorse. Like, that's a huge trip for a guy from down under. I know that you made a trip of it. We were talking about it a few weeks ago on the podcast when you were staying with Matt. But it was truly amazing to get to meet you and hang out and play some airsoft together. And I'm curious, just right off the rip, like, what were your first impressions when we met up on Friday at the safety brief?
Well, the first thing obviously anyone notices when driving down the driveway to Guardian Center is all the cars. Obviously, every event I've been to has limited cars because you just try to stop as many people as you can into one. But even still, that's the same at Guardian Center. Every car there usually has 5-6 people in it. The difference is there's 20 times more cars. So, of course, that long walk up to this briefing area was just insane, thinking that all these people here to shoot plastic at each other. Mm-hmm. Before even getting to the briefing, my favorite part was, of course, just walking casually with the Nomad boys. And I see you and John. And immediately, I mean, your hat kind of gave you away from photos I'd seen earlier that day. But I was like, well, hang on, guys, let's stop. Let's see the guy that we came to see, Because Chris and Jimmy kept walking. Like, what is Frosty doing? Like, say hello to Phil, So, yeah, that was definitely unreal to, I guess, see you before I even got to see Guardian Center or anyone else.
I know, I felt the same way. Like, how like just fortuitous or serendipitous that it's like, as we're just walking down, who do we bump into out of 600 other possible people? It's Frosty and the Nomad boys. Like, that was a little bit surreal, that's for sure.
Yeah, meant to date.
Yeah. And then what about like the setup for the safety brief and stuff? Like, I'm curious, like, how does that compare to what you had done? Obviously, the size of the event in terms of player base, we can sort of not discount, but we can put that to the side for a second. Like, how did that compare to what you guys do at your larger events, in New Zealand?
Yeah, well, obviously, like most events, I think they have the same thing where there's at least one table with a guy writing down your name as you register in. But then, of course, we had not just people in their little sections of their units coming as a team. They're doing their little thing, getting their kids together and saying hello like we all were. But then seeing all these little stores, you got people doing gun modifications on site. Like, that was pretty crazy. I didn't go into half of these places because there's just too much to look at. Like, that's something I hear about. I think in the UK they have boot meets, which are like a bunch of cars come around and they just sell things out the back of their car, secondhand gear. So a garage sale stuff. It felt like, I imagine what that is. It's just basically people coming, setting up their own little shop to sell their products, which is wild. And of course, like the evac tent. I didn't spend too much time at it, but you saw evac Matt, I think it is, who's in all the evac videos, and just feel like, here's another guy that I've watched many times on YouTube. He's a person. He's taller than I think. He's skinnier than I think. But I'm saying hello to him. It's not looking at him through a screen. It's very weird. That's for sure. And I suppose it's the same with everyone we met. Was that everyone is just an online figure until actually in person.
Yeah, and it's interesting to me because I know you. Like, you're the kind of person who will, you don't mind like bumbling around and going meeting people and all this kind of stuff. So I'm curious, like, did you take the opportunity at that time to go and introduce yourself to people, or did that happen sort of casually throughout the weekend, or like how did you? Because I knew you would want to meet people, that's for sure, right? So.
Yeah, a bit of both. Obviously, like that was easy. I just walked up, said, "Hey, from
Hmm.
Australia." Yeah, I gave him my patch and everything, and that's partly what I was doing there was to make connections because, of course, a lot of people don't understand our situation in Australia, and not that there's so much that they can do to help, but awareness. It helps in a way it can. Even speaking of
Hmm.
boat, I'm telling him how it's illegal. That's the only word you can use. It's illegal here, and to the point where we even have a state where I think you have to register Nerf guns as firearms. And I was like, that's crazy. That's insane. And of course, he was very happy that I'd come all this way to do this. Very honored by that. But I know as far as meeting people, there were a few guys I wanted to meet, like Dave from Zulu 24. Never got to see him. Um, Combat Casual wanted to see, which you'd think would be easy because he wears a bright green
Yeah.
t-shirt, but even still never. I mean, look, I barely saw enemy, so of course I wasn't going to see people. But
Mm.
yeah, I went around to any sort of storefront guy, or of course anyone in leadership like Big Red and Rich, and said, "Hey, how's it going?" Gave them a patch. But apart from that, of course, yeah, I bumped into people all the time. Anytime I saw a random player that I liked what they were doing, the type of guy that I would want at my event, I spoke to them and gave them a patch.
Mm.
Be like, this is the sort of thing that I came to see in airsoft. This is why people keep coming back.
Yeah.
And then even like at the end of the night game, all the people that made it that far, even walking out, I bumped into some guys in, I think they were SC kit, and this is a fun surreal moment for me. So these guys are from the Florida Breaches team,
Mm.
which I think it was Will and I want to say Leon. Um, I don't know how it started, but it was just like, hey, how's it going? And then sort of, I think I gave them a Storm Riders card or something, or just gave them a patch because they looked cool. It was like, nice to meet you guys. And they're like, oh yeah, we know who you are. I'm like, so you're like, yeah, Frosty from Call You Hits. We listened. I was like, oh, that was a weird moment. So you're like, there's people here that I just know I exist that I have no idea of.
Yeah.
So shout out to Will and Leon if you're listening. If you are, join the Discord if you haven't already. But yeah, that was wild, and of course that happened a couple of times meeting people that, of course, listen to the show. Like when we were lining up for Chrono, we had some guy talking to us. He says, "Oh, you guys are from the Storm Riders. I watch your content. I didn't know you were coming." I'm like, "Well, how much content do you watch? We've been talking about this for months, so you should have known we were coming."
Yeah, seriously. But it's really interesting that did you say that because I think in the position that I was in, there are people who recognize me for sure, but who did not introduce themselves.
Mm,
Someone put a YouTuber patch on my kit,
yeah.
and I don't know who that is. They came up, they put it on my play carrier in the middle of me doing something, and they just left. And so I tried to remember who it was. I didn't get it on video. And all the people who I asked if they did it, they were like, no, it wasn't me. So some random person out there went ahead and did that. And so I think you're in an interesting position where people would introduce themselves to you, perhaps, and not to me. Do you know what I mean? If you and I were sitting next to each other, they probably would go say hi to you, but maybe not me for whatever reason, which is
Oh,
fine. But
maybe.
yeah,
Yeah. It depends. It
but
depends what they want out of the conversation. I
that's
mean,
true. Yeah.
obviously, everyone that we knew introduced himself. Even
Yes. Yeah.
like after I pointed you out, I kept walking, and then I just heard from across the field, "Is that Frosty?" And of course, it's Glick. And I think he noticed me because of the camo of my hat, which was the
Hmm.
Australian multicam. Which, if that was the case, impressive on Glick. But that was nice. And then, of course, September was talking to me as if we were friends. I'm like, "Who is this person?" And then she pulled out her DMR. I'm like, "Oh, it's September." It's such a neat because obviously I've never seen some of these people's faces because I've never
Hmm.
shown them before.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was very weird to be like, oh, this is a person I should know. Actually, I do know. This is what they look like, and this is the person I'm standing next to for the next 2 days.
And I'm just curious, like, does that compare to your experiences with Australian airsoft from the standpoint that you're meeting once a year to play the big game in New Zealand, and you're bumping into people who you've talked to, but you've never actually met in person. Is that a reality of your gaming as well?
Well, that's how it was at the start. Um, because of course I got into airsoft via gaming via my friend Max. Um, but of course, I did my first year without him, so I was kind of the guinea pig went over. I was like, yeah, this is cool. You have to come next time. And of course, I think yeah, he came next time. He flew down from his state to mine, maybe at a train station, and then we flew over together. But apart from that, pretty much everyone in our event I've met in New Zealand for the first
Gotcha.
time. And it's just a
Okay.
matter of making that impression, knowing that next time you go back, make the effort to see and say hi. Because I said this last time, like it's such little time to say hello to everyone, especially when the numbers keep getting bigger.
Yeah, for real. I know we got a bit of a taste of that too, even for us. I mean, we were together for 2 games on the field, right? And then thankfully we made time for some cookouts in between, and that was really special.
Yeah, and even like you were talking to Chris about that, and of course everyone else, but I was really glad that we did the cookouts, the Friday night and even the Sunday Arvo, coming back and looking and just hanging out. I'm glad you guys got to experience that because obviously that's what we do every year when we go to our events. We have our awards dinner and that sort of time to reflect and just remember that if it wasn't airsoft, we would still be the type of guys who would go grab a burger together.
Right. And I think for me, like when I was doing the planning, because I mean, I am definitely, I'd say, a rigorous planner when it comes to travel. And so I don't think that when I was getting ready for Iron Horse, I really put as much emphasis on the social aspect. Like I knew that we were going to do a cookout and I knew that we were, going to do that kind of stuff. But like, I think if I had to do it all again, I would probably try and make more time in specifically for that. And perhaps a little bit less around just focusing on the airsoft. Cause I think ultimately looking back on it, like that was as important, if not more important almost than the
Yeah.
actual playing. Because when we were playing, I don't know how you felt, and we'll talk about that in a second, but I felt busy. Like I had stuff to do. So it wasn't really a good time for me to just have a conversation about, whatever. It was more like on task. So,
Yeah, I
but
mean, agreed. I wouldn't say I was busy, but even looking back at my GoPro footage, there were times where people were having conversations with me, and I was just disengaged. Like I don't know if that's the mentality I get of keep it short and simple. But there was definitely times looking back where there was nothing going on, and I could have just sat there and had a conversation. And those are the sort of conversations that you remember. Like what the hell were we talking about when we were just sitting there getting shot at? Those are the things you remember. And I don't think I had too many of those instances this time around.
yeah, I remember distinctly the time that we were sitting in the bottom of that building and you asked me to sing sea shanties. And I don't know why, but immediately every single sea shanty that I knew just evaporated from my head.
Yeah,
Right.
I was
And
like,
then
we could do Drunken Sailor, but I was like, Relevant? It was like,
I know, and
I
so
listen to sea shanties all the time.
it's so funny that you were mentioning Drunken Sailor because I was making like my coffee the next morning and I was thinking like, damn, I should have just sang Drunken Sailor. We sing that all the time. And yeah, it's just so that's so foolish. But yeah,
So
so
next time I'll bring a megaphone and we'll just play the sea shanties.
yeah, good idea. Good idea. So let's talk about the event itself and sort of your impressions on that. Obviously, Guardian Center, insane, right?
Yeah, I wish I took more photos.
Yeah. What was
like how many times you get to sit next to a bear cat? So what you guys keep calling an MRAT is a bear cat. I think I don't know. It's like the SWAT version. It's just shorter. But why didn't I stand next to that and get a profile picture? Ridiculous.
What
even like
missed
the rubble.
opportunity.
We talked about it. Like we were like, let's stand in front of the rubble and get a photo. We never did. But yeah.
What was the part that you found the coolest, like in terms of the stuff that was on the field? Like what was the thing that really caught your eye, I guess?
Probably the vehicles. Yeah.
Yeah.
Everything from the army stuff, which I came to see, to random muscle cars and even the ambulance at one point. A little upset at the school buses. I don't know what happened to them. I was kind of hoping to see them, but yeah, definitely the vehicles are just wild.
Did you see the limo?
No,
there was a limo.
I don't think I saw it.
It's so funny. Yeah, the
Yeah,
vehicles.
yeah.
Yeah.
If you look at it, you're like, it's a prop. Like you have to get that in your mind. Because even I was
Hmm.
again watching footage. There's a point where there was a truck and it had its bed down, and I'm looking at the footage. I'm like, why didn't I jump up on that and shoot from there? Like
Hmm.
just to be cool, you know? It was like
Yeah.
because I think at the time I was like, I don't know if it's a prop or if it's someone's vehicle, but if it's someone's vehicle, why is it just sitting here? You
They
know?
were in
So obviously it's a
remarkably
prop.
good condition, right?
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah, that's like I don't know if you pop the hood and there's nothing in it or what. If there's just
Hmm.
bodies.
Um, and then so let's talk about the actual game because I think for me and some of the conversation, I'm curious to get your perspective on this. But um, the whistle blows, or not the whistle, but like Rich says whatever he's gonna say, and then they pop the black smoke, and we start running down the tunnel. And I've got basically everybody's perspective from the on a video perspective of us like running down this tunnel.
Mhm.
Um, is there like a flick that just a switch that flicks in your brain about like, okay, now we're playing and it completely changes? Or are you still like I was in this moment of like, I can't believe I'm doing this?
Actually, I will say I was distracted because like I don't know what I was doing. You can see it in my footage. I don't know what I was doing. I was trying to fix something, and I'm at the back of the pack, and then you hear like some people making jokes. Like one guy's like, "You guys okay with keeping up with the 60-year-old's pace?" And then so it's like, "Yeah, I'm almost 60 myself." And it's like, "Okay, this is how it's happening." But yeah, I'm fiddling with something. Then you hear like a noise, and then everyone just starts running. And that's one of the benefits about being at the back of any movement is you get to see everyone in front of you.
Mm.
Because if you're at the front, like you see nothing. I don't know if any professional YouTubers out there have a camera that faces backwards, but no, my brain didn't click because I guess it clicked in the sense of, hey, we're going now. Whatever I'm doing stops. I need to be somewhere else now. But something that really bothered me at this problem as we were running through that tunnel is that my grenade pouches in the back, the AFG fours adjust the right size they fit in the pouch so much that when you jump, they fall out. So
Oh,
as I was running through, all my grenades fell out. So
oh
there's actually
no.
points where you see me go back and grab. I think I grabbed two, and then the other two fell out in the pitch black, so they were gone. No way I was getting them.
Hmm.
But yeah, I mean, seeing like 200 of us sprinting down a tunnel to just get somewhere else was very airsoft, I guess.
Yeah, very
Yeah,
airsoft.
yeah.
That's yeah. And then you guys split off with well, Foxtrot too. So you and like Jimmy and Chris split off, and you made your way to the buildings basically right at the beginning, right? You didn't spend any time in the tunnels with us, right? If I
No,
remember
no,
correctly.
you guys went straight to the front door of the tunnel and we boogied out right both into the building and then sat there for 2.5 hours.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And what was that like for you? Because obviously, like, not exactly what we intended as our initial tasking to be there for 2.5 hours at you know, like being in the tunnels and being in the building, fine, but we didn't expect to be there as long as we were. But were you busy out there? Like, I haven't had a chance to look through all of your footage yet. But what was
Nah,
it? What was the action like for you guys?
pretty boring. To stand in a building for 2.5 hours where you're not needed.
Hmm.
Um, so unless we basically any engagement we had was purely distance. So unless you were Galen or Fox or September who were LMGs and DMRs, all you could do is look out a window and point out targets. And
Hmm.
then, which it helps the team. Like that's the whole point of keeping security. But and that was the thing. You'll see in my footage, there's a point where I'm watching they're finally starting to push. I'm like, Galen, get over here. I need a gun. I need someone who can shoot these guys because all I can do is defend to shoot. Um,
Hmm.
and of course, Daron's Finso, like the hero he is, and starts laying down hate, and they're all done. And they're like, that's cool. That was Daron being a hero for maybe 60 seconds, and then we
Yeah.
went back to standing there while all the dead people respawned so they could try again. But no, look, he made the most of it. I spent. I told you before that I was going into this game with the mindset of sticking with the team and being a team player.
Hmm.
And that's basically what I tried to do. I just walked around keeping the morale up, handing out all the candy. Um, to the point where Chris was bugging me, saying, "Hey, you got any more of that candy?" Um,
Yeah.
and like that's the thing. Like as long like there's two types of suck. which I was telling us earlier, is that there's a suck where you look at each other and you go, this sucks, let's keep going. And then there's a suck where it's like, this sucks, nothing's happening. And unfortunately, nothing was happening. So you got to make the most of it. We found a random pole that looked like a mic stand. So then we took a second to do some stand-up comedy, you know? But making sure that everyone understands that although we're not doing anything, enjoy the moment and just stay on top of it. And like we had, I think it was an SD player downstairs. He knew that nothing was happening. He got that in his head. So he just spent the next half hour running back between FOB and that building with bottles of water just to hand out to people. Because he's like, well, similar to at the faction briefing the day earlier where we were all standing in the sun for 40-something minutes. And I was like, I am suffering. So is everyone else.
Yeah.
So I walked away. I got like 7 bottles of water and came back and handed it out to me. It was like, if this sucks for me, it sucks for everyone. So you're just going to try and realize what will make me happy and how can I spread that to others. So yeah, made the most of it. Just went for that team play aspect.
Yeah, I think, and you raised a really good point, which is that you can understand that what you're doing as a team is important, right? Or as a group is important, even if you yourself are not enjoying yourself, so to speak, right? So there's that opportunity to then look at the situation and make yourself useful in whatever capacity that looks like. And I know that for us in the tunnels, similar, like Jack had a bandage, and so Sam told him, hey, go to the fob, take it off, and then bring bottles of water back. And so, that's the same thing. He brought bottles of water back, and it was really helpful because I was very, very hot, and I happened to got to a water bottle just when I needed it. So that is really helpful and helps the mission, even though it doesn't necessarily help the fun. Same thing with you talking about morale. Like, that helps the team overall because now the people don't hate their lives or whatever for that 15 minutes or whatever,
because it keeps you going. You never know how long you're going to be there, but if you're constantly declining how effective you are, when the time comes that something's happening, you don't want to do it. So if you can try to keep that 80 to 100% for as long as possible, when you're needed, you can still perform.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's such a I don't know about yourself, but I think for me, especially with the scale of the event, like understanding the bigger picture of what was happening was so critical, right?
I mean, I didn't understand it at all. It's like I
Really?
understood. Well, Jimmy, we spoke about this before. Our plan was to hold this building because we knew if we hold this corner, that would lock off everything behind us, which it did. And like you said in the previous pod, almost too effectively to the point where every objective is done. And it's like, cool, guys, you can stop defending because there's nothing left to defend sort of situation. That's what you say, the bigger picture. All I know is that we participated, but to what extent did we win in the first 3 hours? That's kind of how it feels in some senses. Because as far as objectives go, the only objective I ever knew was stand by to stand by. Like the one time we actually had something clear besides pushing the area was when we were raiding up in the forest area, and we were told there's a SAM site just nearby. These guys have a bomb at our base. They're going to bring the bomb to us, and then we're going to push the SAM site and blow it up. And then lo and behold, the bomb was lost. So then the guys never came. So then we never blew up the SAM, and then we just stood there for. We stood by a standby again. You know? So as far as bigger picture goes, I have no idea what it'll really happen.
That's interesting. Yeah. And I guess my perspective is different because I was on the radio, so I could hear sort of what people were talking about to provide me a little bit of context or understanding that, like, I could see, like, in the command chat, like all of the objectives that were being posted because people would take pictures or timestamps or whatever. And so I was in the tunnels just holding that corner for, an hour, and I could just see the stuff just scrolling in, like being like picture, or like capture this flag at this time or what have you. Right. So definitely. I think, that's a position of privilege, I would say, but that's
well, if anything, point. I'd say, from a later perspective, I would share that information with my unit. Be like, hey guys, I know we didn't know, but Echo 4 and Foxtrot 3 just did this. And like, cool, we're doing stuff. Like, although we're not doing stuff, stuff's getting done because of it. Like, there's the most exciting moment in that 2.5 hour hold at the beginning was when Jimmy came running out of nowhere. I didn't even know he left, but he just came running out of nowhere back to our building with a crate. It's like, guys, I got it. Puts it on the ground, and we're looking at it, and they're like, oh yeah, this isn't actually a game item. It's just a random Guardian Center thing that was left behind from someone else.
Oh no.
You know, so we're like, what is this? Like, it's like a USB or something, but there's no stickers on it. It has nothing to do with this game. We're like, yeah, cool.
Yeah, and I know in the tunnels we had the benefit of having Matt, the Foxtrot leader, be in there with us for a long period of time, doing exactly what you're talking about, like going around telling people, I know this sucks, but we're doing great, and etc. So after 2.5 hours go by, we went back to the fob, we restocked, and then we went out again. And I think that's where the game really changed for us. Like we went from sitting around to being super, super active. That's where a lot of the footage that you sent me that I was looking through, that's where it really begins, right? That's where it begins to be sort of interesting, I guess, right? And so that's when we had to, yeah, well, for sure, right?
Yeah.
And we had to link up with another group as well, which was for us, for me at least, was the first time we were like rolling with somebody completely different. Do you recall that in particular? Like,
yeah, we had Softshot 3 to begin with, and there might have been another group with us. Yeah, it was fun. Just moved out.
Yeah, that was a very different experience. I'm just interested to hear your thoughts about, or your feelings about how that was and how that went.
It was exciting. I mean, like, we were told, hey, we're leaving. And everyone was like, yeah, let's get out of here. And then, of course, to see a muster of so many guys, it's like, well, something's going down. But yeah, then you also get the problem with when there's too many people who are we following. Yeah. And that happened a couple of times whenever we linked up, is that you'd find we're following Foxtrot 1 or 2, and then you end up splitting squads, and now you got guys all over the place. And again, if we didn't know what the objective was besides go here, which often it wasn't even go here, it was follow me here. Yeah, if you can't see the bigger picture, you do really question what is my goal besides shoot a guy if I see him.
Yeah.
And then even on top of that, like SSE, like you'll see in my footage again, I'm just opening drawers, it looks like a video game, which is cool. And like seeing just random things in drawers, like there was a doorknob, I'm like, oh, it's a grenade, or it was a pack of cigarettes. It's like, it's just, looting in a sense is fun, but of course, then it got to that point where we were told, don't bother searching for anything, guys. Everything's been found.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I got to that part of my footage just the other day, and I was linking up your footage with my footage of that same moment, where it's the same thing. Like I can see myself going through drawers, etc., and then you hear it's like, don't bother looking for stuff, and it's like, okay, that's fine. That saves me trouble, but also that kind of sucks because, to your point, like opening drawers and like searching stuff is part of the experience, right?
Yeah.
I think one of the most notable engagements that we had together was around that trailer, like Winnebago, and in that loading area. That was pretty crazy, right?
That was great. It was a weird angle to push from, and of course we didn't really know what to do. It started off pretty bad when Jimmy threw a grenade at the wall and it bounced back, and we all scattered.
Yeah.
But no, I guess that was the first part where we actually got into some sort of engagement. And I got hit twice, made it out alive. I went home and saw the parents. But no, that was definitely cool to actually be like, hey, we're shooting guys now as a team.
You got dragged, right? You got medic dragged?
Yeah.
Was that your first time?
I want to say no. No, I feel like I've been dragged before.
Okay.
I don't know. I'm curious though, because that was on the asphalt, which I was not ready for. When I got dragged. I think it actually ripped out an eyelet in the back of my camelback.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's fine, but it's just like, oh, that's gone. Cool. I wonder when that happened. And that's probably when.
I think it was Dan who grabbed you and like hauled you back.
Yeah, he like lifted. I was like, oh, if anyone's, go for it, Dan. I was like, okay, we're doing this.
Yeah, I love that dragging mechanic. I think it's such a good idea, but it is, it is very dependent on the person as well. Like in them having enough strength to lift you up and all this kind of stuff. Some people you don't worry about.
Hmm.
Some people who are, they're if they're built different. That I like the option as well of being like, hey, don't drag me, because I know like at one point
Yeah,
Matt Kruger was down and he's like, no, do not drag me, and it's like, okay,
yeah,
cool, right?
yeah. I
Um,
agree.
I think after we wrapped that up, we went around, and like there was a bit of a last stand. I don't know where you went after that engagement. Do you remember like what where you went on the field after that? Because we pushed west, and we tried to get into, or we did get into a blocking position in one of the western buildings to prevent cost advance on that side near the soccer field. So that's where we were. But what did you do after that? After the camper van, and we went back into the tunnels to fight in the northern tunnels, and then we went back west.
God, I mean, if it's not in the footage, was there? I must have been there because I got so little engagement that I don't think I ever fully died. So
Mm,
it's possible at that point I went to a aid station, but I never actually fully died and had to go back to FOB. The only time I went back to FOB, I think, was for eating purposes, or that one push on day 2 where everyone literally died, which
yeah,
is like
yeah,
cool. Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, so if I wasn't there, I must have been at an aid station because I wasn't doing any solo mission, that's for sure.
Right. And then in the evening, we had that Sicario moment, as you described it, right?
Yeah, I think you described it as Sicario. Everyone I've showed that to is like, "God, it's so Sicario," and I'm like, I watched Sicario maybe 3 months ago. Like, I don't remember what scene it was, if I'm honest.
I thought for sure it was you who brought it up, but I mean, fair enough. But that was,
I mean, I also brought up Sicario as like our inspiration for our kits.
mm.
That's for sure. But as for that moment, definitely not.
Was that your first experience playing airsoft in like the pitch darkness like that?
Nah, nah. My first year was 2019, I think, which was in a little pallet village, which was cool. And what they did then, I couldn't see anything, obviously, but they had like a mortar set up that would shoot illumination rounds every now and then. So
Hmm.
you'd have people running around in the dark, and then you'd hear this noise, and then suddenly you can see everything. And you got people out in the open. Like, oh no, no one sees me. I really wish that we had illumination rounds at Guardians. That would have been cool to like send them over that river bit and all that would have been really cool. That's for
Yeah.
sure.
All the nods guys would have been really upset with that, I'm sure.
Well, whatever. I
Yeah,
mean, all of those
seriously.
guys are already upset with how bright it was anyway.
Yeah, and that struck me too. Like I didn't really expect how bright it was going to be in the village. Obviously, we were out in that, in the northern lake houses or whatever, and that was a
Mm.
nightmare. But there was no illumination whatsoever out there, right? Aside from what we brought. And we weren't using it because of the nods guides, right?
Yeah, and I mean, there was no need to really be out there. I think as we
Yeah.
discussed before, by nighttime, I don't even know if the enemy was there. I think we were all just shooting at each other at that point in the darkness.
Yeah, I think we were really struggling. I think perhaps maybe throughout the day, just struggling for stuff to find to do, right? Giving ourselves objectives and
Mm.
trying to just engage and make some fun for ourselves and some missions for ourselves. And I don't know about you, but like for me, like there was, and I think I've mentioned this before, like every time that Matt would tell us to do something or what have you, like I took that as a mission and an objective to go complete and stuff. And I thought that was pretty
Yeah.
cool. Did you feel the same way, or were you legit like, okay, this we need something else? Like how were you
No,
managing your
I
trip
think
in
I
bed?
felt the same. I think I felt the same until the end of day 1. When after we left that building that we both died in,
Mhm.
I bumped into the boat and was talking to him for like 15 minutes. He was asking me how everything's going and all that. It was great. And I told him, I was like, yeah, I didn't really do anything. Like I barely saw any enemies. I didn't see any objectives. And he was telling me, yeah, well, like that sucks, man. But maybe tomorrow, like just pest the command. Tell them that like, hey, I haven't done anything. Get me to do something.
Mhm.
And I think I don't know why, but I think because come day 2 we had Big Red with us. To me, that was like whatever we're doing must be something important because we got platoon leads.
Mhm.
Um, but I think looking back, as much as I loved being around the team and being a morale guy, this is a really important journey for me to come to America and play this event. I should have taken aside an hour or two to go off and do my own thing. Even if it was with another guy or another 3 guys, I should have been like, no, I'm just going to go find people to shoot. Because the entire weekend, I think I went through 5 magazines. Like,
Yeah.
our loadout was 7. And I know I've said before that I don't shoot a lot because I'm pretty meticulous with my shots. Like, I count. But at this event, I bought 9,000 BBs. By the end of it, I gave away 6,000 and then had another 1,500 in a bottle, just sat down and gave it to someone else. So I was like, what can I do? I mean, yeah, that was kind of disappointing. 5 magazines over 2 days of what's supposed to be the most intense CQB field was like, where did I go? And I think that is part of it, is that I didn't decide to just go out and have my own adventure. So moving forward, I would do that. I'd say, hey, look, for the next 3 hours, I'm gonna go hang out with Glick because I don't know what Glick's doing, but I know he's having fun, right? And I think that comes down to sort of game admin too, because like we said, all objectives were done in the first couple of hours of the first day, besides capture points. We went into this being told we didn't care about capture points. We're just going to do missions. So we did the missions, and then it became capture points again. Oz One events, we always have more missions than feasibly possible in the event that they just don't run out. We'll have ideas and we'll have them listed. And then like, this was really cool, but we never got to it because they had so much fun and already doing stuff. So then we put that into next year's event. And I think they need that fallback. I don't know if maybe it was and it was just never put in, but the idea that everything was completed day one just sounds wild to me. And then to go on top of that, I think changing the field parameters would have made a difference. So like at nighttime, towards the very end, they turned off all the lights so the nod guys could come out and play. What I would have liked to have seen is also borders shift. So it's hard to make areas out of bounds depending on how it's laid out. So of course, like nation borders, natural borders are things like rivers or mountain ranges or, the coastline, for example. If they moved everything into the city only, that's now condensing players. Put on top of that, say day 2, Sunday, first floor only. Get rid of second, third, no elevation game. You know how different the gameplay would have been knowing that when I'm now looking at this building, instead of 16 windows that they can shoot me from, it's now 4? Like, our push from the lake house in the second day, that would have gone completely differently if we were charging that building. And although like people might moan and be like, oh, it's harder now, like tough it. Like the whole point of this is to have the combat. We can play standing by that home by ourselves. Okay? But if they made it all condensed into a smaller part, remove the second, third floors, now people no longer have range and elevation, you would have been running into enemies constantly.
Especially on day 2.
Especially, when there was less players as well.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. I think that's really sensible. I think fundamentally, the reality of what you're describing, I think to be kind to yourself, like you came to this event with a mindset which was you are going to be a team player. And you executed on that personal mission perfectly. That's exactly what you did, to perhaps the detriment of your own enjoyment and looking back on it, what you might have done a bit differently. What's really interesting is I have Will's footage from one of the pairs, right? And I've been syncing that up. And so the way that he played and the way that the pairs played was very different, right? Was that once we got to the tunnels, you can very clearly hear him say in this footage, I don't have an objective, right?
Yeah.
And so from my perspective, we did have an objective. It's hold the tunnels. But him individually, he's like, I don't have an objective. So they're going to tunnels, and then we're shooting guys from tunnels, and then they're exiting the tunnel and trying to push and have a fight elsewhere. And then they realize that's not possible because they're getting pushed by like 20 or 30 guys. And so they peel back and they get in another defensible position and all this kind of stuff. And they were being sort of entrepreneurial in how they were doing that, but also still like they weren't disassociated from the team, although that did happen sort of later on and they got disconnected and that, that's whatever. But the point is, like, I think there's an opportunity perhaps to be able to do both. But I don't want to speak for you, but for myself, I don't have any experience doing both. I don't have any experience being the team player and holding the position and doing the job, but also at the same time going and finding other stuff that's fun for me to do. Now, thankfully, in my case, like I had Steve who was like, hey, let's go quickly do an SSE. right? And he grabbed me and he's like, all right, we're gonna go SSC this like this hallway, these couple of rooms or whatever. Open door, there's full of black mold. You're like, okay, maybe not in here, I don't know. And like, do a couple things and fall back. And like that was really engaging. That was really cool. That was maybe, I don't know, 5 minutes. Didn't shoot anybody, didn't see anybody
Mhm.
first or last. But regardless, like it was something different. And so I think, if we had to do that again, I think your idea makes a lot of sense. Like there's no reason why we couldn't be in a building like there's a whole squad of you guys. There's 16 of you, right, or 14 of you or whatever in a building. Take four guys and just go do something stupid, right?
Yeah.
And
So
then
what's what if you die? Like then
yeah,
you respawn,
and there's
and
still 10
you
guys
read
in
us.
that building, right? There's
Yeah.
still a huge amount of players who are able, even in the tunnels. Just to give you an idea, like Jack did the same thing. He went up to Sam and he's like, this is what I want to do. I have a stupid idea. I need 3 players. And Sam said, I can't afford 3 players. No. It's like, okay, well, we're not doing that then. And then a couple of minutes later, Sam's like, I changed my mind. I can afford 3 players. Go ahead and do that. And so him and Matt
Yeah.
and John, I think, went and did something stupid, got shot, and went back to FOB. Great. So I think that's a learning opportunity for sure. Like that's the way I'm taking it anyway. Like if and when we do this again, which hopefully we will,
Yeah.
we will have the opportunity to take some of that into on board and learn from it, right?
Yeah, it's finding that balance because I have done both. I've done team player, do nothing, and I've done run my own adventure, which can also end up doing nothing because
Mhm.
you get lost and you don't find anything. But no, to touch on that, I think what we need to do is take more risks. So, like we said, we got to a point where we kind of won the game. Again, there's no scores officially, but we kind of won objectives very early on. At that point, now it's about us winning personally to where, yeah, what is winning? It's having fun, which unfortunately, standing in a building or clearing empty rooms isn't, it's fun to an extent, but not as fun as actually getting engaged in that sort of combat. And even if you do get shot, like, at least you tried.
Right.
And I think that's, again, take that risk, take that chance, because if you don't, you end up where I am now, wishing I had it. Because, yeah, like, you do split off, even like, it was great. I think towards the end of one day, Rook and I sort of became semi-detached from the group. We were always around the group, but whenever we entered buildings, Rook and I were the ones doing our own clearing as a unit.
Mhm.
And actually, I really enjoyed that because Rook started off, a little under from the heat, I guess. But he was a champion. He just sat there. He's like, no, I'm not going anywhere. I don't care if I have to sit here. I'm gonna sit here and suffer. But yeah, when he finally got up and going, that was great to watch because, like Senda mentioned in her episode, they've been playing Breakpoint in the lead up, and so would we. I was playing Breakpoint with September and Chris to sort of get a feel for teamwork or communication. And watching Rook go around the way he moves was like watching September in the video game. You could tell that they obviously play together in the field, but they also move the same way that they move in Ghost Recon.
Mhm.
So to go from having spent that time in September online to now doing it in life with Rook was just, I don't want to say flick a switch. It felt natural. It was like riding a bike.
Yeah.
And that was definitely cool.
I think, we've said it a bunch on the podcast, but it really is startling how natural everything just all of us just came together. Like there was
Mm.
very little like friction in terms of like, oh, this is how I do it. Oh no, I do it this way. Like it was very much. I know like the Nomad Boys, walked you and other people through some stuff, and like, but it was very like it was a seamless integration. Like, hey, we're playing together now, and I guess perhaps that talks to the lack of complexity that is airsoft, and maybe in general, like it is easy to roll in. But I think given the disparity of the group, I think it's pretty impressive overall. And what you're talking about with Rook in September, like I think it's so cool to me. Like it's just unbelievable. And the fact that we made that happen is just, I can't get like
Mm.
5 people together to play D&D on a weekend. And yet, we can get like 25 people together to play an event like that. Um I guess my question for you is what are you taking away from this event that you're bringing back to Oz One and like Arc and like your airsoft scene? Because I know I'm bringing some stuff back. I'm curious from your perspective what you learned and what you're maybe going to pilfer as well as ideas.
You know, I don't think there's too much. Like, we've got a pretty locked down at Oz one at the moment, I think. Um, any ideas I had for this event this year were already pretty premeditated before I went to Ironhorse.
Mm-hmm.
Everything that I've learned at Ironhorse, I don't really think I can apply to our event. Besides just, again, like taking that chance a bit more. Yeah, I don't want to say I learned anything new. Every new experience and learning I had was just from the people that were with.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, and of course, unfortunately, the people aren't going to be at this event, so I can't continue to share that.
Yes, that is. It's funny, hey, like we'll travel to them, but sometimes are they going to travel to us? I mean, it would be cool.
Yeah,
It would be cool, but it's a huge,
one day.
yeah, a huge trip. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely. I think there's also like you're talking about like there's lessons to bring back around. Always make sure that we have missions on hand and stuff like that. Stuff that you've already considered. And I think there's mechanics at these events too that we didn't get to interact with that are interesting nonetheless. Like the QR codes, for example. Like I think is an interesting
I
thing.
was told that there were doors that were being breached at some point. I of course never saw that.
I don't know how much.
It would have not happened. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure how much you'd be doing that at Oz One. I know here in Canada it would be a complete no go.
Yeah. Well, look, we actually I think we had a breaching event years ago, but that's when we were part of another group that had access to such ordinance. I would say, but look, we're looking at making things more interesting and changing it. Like, I for one would like to have breaching with door cutters, so bolt cutters, like. It's so small and simple, but like a $2-3 padlock from the hardware store and a pair of bolt cutters, and then giving it to that guy and your squad, like, hey, open that door, we're going in. Like that's a dream moment for that kid. Okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
It doesn't have to follow up, but he has to know that he made an impact by giving us a new entrance.
What was your golden moment from this event? Like the moment that really was super cool for you in terms of gameplay?
Again, I don't know. So I look back at everything on how I could have done it differently.
Mm-hmm.
Which is a bit struggle. So obviously that night raid was cool. I wouldn't call it golden. It was golden adjacent, that's for sure.
Oh, it's space.
Yeah. Look, I don't know. If we had one of those portable ladders, we could have maybe got down that wall. I reckon if we spent more time realizing the situation we're in and coming up with ideas how to push forward rather than get away, we could have had different outcomes. Like I kept saying at the night push, it's already dark. Anyone that can actually really see us has night vision. Everybody throws some smoke grenades. Like, to my knowledge, I'm pretty sure smoke, although you can't see it at night, now anyone using night vision is having a lot more trouble seeing too. So like if we had moved more left and then pop smoke and then I'm gonna say jump down the wall, but we were a team. There was 20 of us. Why could we not? We're dragging each other to be medic. Why can we not help lift people down? The same way when we pushed the third story building on the second day, we all pushed head on. And even though we had a bunch of SD guys to our side who were hoping we were going to push us but didn't, even if we had guys climb up the wall on the far right, people on the far left, and then a couple in the middle, that would have spread their angle to shoot at from 20, 30 degrees to now 120 degrees. And they can only have so many people shooting out that window at that range. I don't know if it would have been effective, but I definitely believe we would have got more people to that front door.
Yeah.
What I really liked, this was sort of my golden moment. It's small, but I threw 2 grenades during that push, and one of them landed perfectly inside the car that we were taking cover behind, specifically under the engine. So then we're looking at this beaten down car that we're all taking cover on, and there's this plume of black smoke coming out. I was like, yeah, I'm very proud of that smoke. Like, if anyone's filming this, that's really aesthetically good looking.
Yeah.
That's for sure. Yeah.
Was that your first time throwing pyro?
Yes. Yeah, I
Like
think
the
so.
event in
Yeah.
general was your first time with
Oh
pyro?
no, 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 no.
No?
Well, that
Okay.
was day two. So by that time, I was tossing things all over the place.
All right.
In the footage, there's a bit where I just throw a smoke, and you hear Chris say, "You just won the Throdex because you could." I'm like, yeah, yeah.
I mean,
Even
you got it.
yeah. Well, there's a great bit where I'm pretty sure it's September, and a couple of us just run across this open area, and she goes to throw a grenade into this little gap in the window, and of course, it hits the plank of wood and bounces back, and then everyone scatters again. So, yeah, not a big grenade toss. But at that point, like, I don't even flinch, but you just see out the corner of the camera me just roll smoke onto the ground just because. Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, again, at the end of the event, you'll see. I just started throwing grenades in the air. I was doing the airburst thing,
Yeah,
and
that was
I was
cool.
listening to the pre-episode with Matt and I, and you were talking about starting a under over or something about me throwing grenades and all that.
Mm-hmm.
And you were saying, yeah, I'm just gonna start throwing them because why not? And then you hear in this GoPro footage, I think Chris says, "Frosty, why not just waste them?" And I'm like, well, what else am I gonna do? I can't take them home.
Mm-hmm.
Just throw a grenade. Yeah. No, Tyro, very cool. Looking back, EG67s are overhyped. They're cool, but their durability is very questionable.
Yeah, I agree.
So anyone looking at grenades, I recommend the tag in AFG 6s. I think they were pretty solid.
I agree, and those are actually available now in Canada. And I've been considering how we can for private games and stuff like that, because obviously at the
Yeah.
open games where we have like 12, 13-year-old kids with no hearing protection, I'm not, I don't want to be throwing those at children, right? Like no chance. But for a private event with all adults with hearing protection, or at least who can make the choice, like John chose not to wear hearing protection and he got rocked by his own grenade because it landed at his feet and he got all turned around, but that's another story. Um, yeah, I think ultimately though, it's I don't know about you, but I don't want to get people to get the wrong impression. Like, yes, there were boring moments and stuff like that, but it was still overall, like, at least for me, and I'm curious for you, definitely a very important event in my time playing Airsoft. Like a very, very critical, pivotal turning moment. What about for
Yeah,
yourself?
that's a perfect way of looking at it. Like, I've said it before. I was always going to come to America to play. Like that was inevitable. The only reason I came to this event is because the rest of you guys did. So I'm like, well, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go when a bunch of people that I actually want to meet are there as well. And yeah, that's what made it for me. Like meeting you guys, and I think I don't know if I said it before, but giving you that opportunity to hang out before and after the event is what makes airsoft a community.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, it's just a sport where we compete against each other in some sense,
Yeah.
So to have that connection and meet people was what made it for me because, like they sort of touched on, people I guess know me now in a sense, but of course to come and then have other community events, I love. Like obviously, when it's just on, like these are my teammates. I'm gonna enjoy every second. But to see the respect that they sort of shared in that way was very humbling. Just I think people thought I was taller than I am, which is no, I'm kind of on the short end, but thank you. I do. That was a good presence, but that and then like Dan comes up to me and he goes, "So what's your military affiliation?" Because that was sort of the presence I gave him. That was he's like, yeah, like you know your stuff, sort of. That's the vibe he got. And obviously, there's a lot of vets in American airsoft. There's not in Australian or New Zealand airsoft. There's some, but not a lot. A lot of it for us is people who may have wanted to get in but got turned down for certain reasons, so gamers and such. So the respect that not only that was given to me, but then shared with others. I forget who said it, but someone said to me, "It was like you're everything I thought you were and more." And it's like that was like kind of respond to that,
Yeah, really. Hey?
Yeah, like I don't want to say I try to be the good guy, but knowing that affects has been felt through the community is very important.
Yeah.
And it sets a standard for how we move forward with it too. Because, I mean, you've seen it in Discord. As we've had people who came to this event that literally only came because they heard we were coming, like Slide.
Mhm.
Like we only had Slide on the first day, but I loved every second of having him there.
Yeah, he really.
And now he's more active on the Discord because I think he knows that this is the type of people he wants to be around. And others are like that too. Even Rook said it. It was like, I want to get out of this antisocial sort of trait I have and start talking with you guys more.
Yeah.
So
It's not
yeah,
just names on the
very,
screen,
very important.
right? It's we're buddies now,
Yes.
right? Like we've
Mm.
hung out, we've shared some experiences, some burgers, some hot dogs, some Vegemite for some of us, maybe not others.
Yeah.
And yeah, I love how you put it. Like that's the community that Airsoft is about. Otherwise, it's just people come together, do a thing, and then just break off again. And
Yeah.
yeah, it was definitely humbling to be able to have that experience and share it with you. And to be honest, I cannot wait to do it again. It's
Yeah.
expensive. I know it's expensive for you. It's expensive for me as well. But I would spend every single dollar exactly the same way.
Yeah.
Right? Like I think I would, I would do it again, and I would do exactly the same thing and have the same amount of fun. So I appreciate your perspective on all this, Frosty. It's always good to have a chat with you. And guys, if you're listening and you still haven't joined the Discord, I mean, I don't know what to tell you other than go ahead and do that. It's in the link in the description, and have some conversations with us. And hopefully, if you're interested, you can join us the next time the Stormrider Foreign Legion decides to roll up in the US. Hint, hint, it maybe next year. I don't know yet. We'll keep you up to date on all that stuff. But again, Ben, thanks for being here, man. I appreciate it. Love talking to you. And for those of you listening, that's all we got for you this week. We'll talk to you next week. Take care.
Take care.